Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we continue our 2024 Halloween series reviews of 1980s horror movies, talking all about ghostly, haunted houses of the doom. Up next, if y'all like flies, if y'all like wind, if y'all like things thrown at you in 3D.
Yes.
If you like that chick from Full House in 3D, and if you like stories that are a little flat but they're in 3D, then this is the review for you, brother, because the Retro Blood is continuing our Amityville series of 1980s horror month with Amityville 3D. Alison, get the tables.
Get the tables and the chairs.
And the chairs, brother. J. Alison.
And the ladders.
J. Alison, James Kline. What's going on, Alison? How did you feel about all these 3D stuff popping at you?
Man, I think this would have been a fun 3D movie to watch, especially during the credits. I wish with the hurricane and everything, I didn't have time to try to procure a 3D Blu-ray of this.
Yes.
But this would have been a cool little 3D movie. I actually like this movie a lot.
Really?
Yes. No, I was as shocked as you are. I liked it way better than 2.
I don't know,
yeah,
man.
I mean,
that 2 had some interesting shit that I liked. You know what I mean?
You mean the sister fucking?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, come on. This was interesting. Like, it had the shocking death stuff with the him going crazy and killing his family and everything. This one had like I said, this one only had one shocking death scene.
Oh, there was nothing really. Definitely, there wasn't much shocking in this. But I think the thing is that it just looked good.
Yeah.
Like you could tell, like Richard Fleischer directed this, and you could just tell that he knows how to make a movie. And we'll talk about him when we talk about Who Booked the Shit and the things that he's done. I mean, he's made some legitimately good movies, and then he made this. But he you could tell that he knows how to direct a movie, and it just looked good.
Yeah,
like I don't know how to describe that in any other way, but it just looked like a professional movie. And I just liked it. I don't know, I like the story a lot better than the story in the other movie. I don't know. I liked it.
I mean, I thought it was, it's funny where they didn't mention anything that happened in the first and second movie. All right, and there's a reason. No. There's a reason for that, actually. We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah. Like, the only thing is, like, when you get to the end, it just looks like they just ran out of money.
Yeah,
it's almost like they shot the movie sequentially. And then at the end of it, they're just like, okay, this is the money we have left. Make me a monster.
Yeah, make me a purple light floating thing to walk around our house.
It was fantastic.
And then we'll get the magazine cover guys to cover it, brother. We're gonna expose your trickery here.
So good. It's so good.
They got that one dude, the main guy. Oh God! What I had his name written down on here. Hold on. With the, the dad, John Baxter, not believing anything. That superstition doesn't happen to me, brother. So it's fake. It's like one of those guys.
Absolutely.
So it was okay. Like it definitely had the 3D vibe to it. You know what I mean? Like that was like a big thing going on in this portion of the 80s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it had
was
like
huge,
and like it's so funny. Like when you don't watch it in 3D, you can see all the 3D spots.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, those things are made just for 3D.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've told this story before, but I'll quickly tell it again. I remember in 1983 was a huge year for 3D. This Friday the 13th came out in 3D. I'm really surprised Return of the Jedi didn't come out in 3D because that was that year too. But I only got to see one 3D movie in 1983. And it was right around the time that Return of the Jedi came out. But I went with some family friends, I guess you could say, to see Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone in 3D. And that's a great movie if you've never seen it. It's a really good 80s science fiction movie. It's kind of weird that they would put that out the same month that Star Wars came out. But, I guess they felt really hopeful about their product. But it's actually really cool because if you watch it, at the very beginning, there's like a space scene and there's like these like asteroids and things floating around. And they look like they're floating in the movie theater. It was just really cool. Everything else I've ever seen is just gimmicked toward 3D, like the swordfish at the end and things like that. The credits and things like that.
Are you telling me that the 3D flies weren't the greatest thing you've seen in cinema history?
Oh, I didn't think about that. That would have been really. I forgot about that. That would have been really cool. With if the flies came out into the odd, that would have been really awesome.
Yeah, 3D flies.
Yeah,
man.
that would have been cool.
But yeah, we'll talk all about it. This is so far that, like I said, me personally, the ghost stuff has never been my thing. And then this one, like, I can't really, was it mostly the house that was haunted, or was there like, I think they mostly went back to the house on this one.
In this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they did. This has really nothing to do with the other story.
Nothing, yeah. It's like the whole thing.
Like, yeah, this could just be like any haunted house movie, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't even have really any of the lore. I hate that word because everybody's using it now, but it doesn't really even have the lore from the older movies. It's just like, write me a haunted house movie.
I think the only aspect that it had from the original story, which we'll talk about when we do the Who Booked This Shit, was apparently during the Lux's when they were writing their book and get it out there, there was a person out there trying to debunk them. Hans
Holzer, yeah.
Yes. So I think this movie did have a little bit of that because we had, John Baxter's character. He worked for the, was it Exposed magazine?
I believe so, yeah, Exposed. So he was basically Hans Holzer in this movie.
Yeah.
Because Hans Holzer was a known, I don't know. I mean, I guess you would call him a known skeptic. But he definitely tried to debunk a lot of claims like this. He was definitely a paranormal researcher, so he was interested in it, but he would definitely try to debunk everything that he could.
Yeah.
He was the one that brought the medium into the house. But he also, he brought her into the house, and she's the one that said it was built on an Indian burial ground, which turned out not to be true. There's no proof that was ever true. But so I don't know, like he's kind of a skeptic, but kind of not. So he kind of did just as much to promote misinformation about this as anybody else. When I was in Phoenix this week, I actually found a Hans Holzer book in a used bookstore, but it was missing the dust cover, so I didn't buy it. I hate incomplete shit, so I didn't buy it.
Think about it, man. You could have got that thing signed, maybe.
Well, Hans Holzer's dead, but yeah.
Well, it's crazy, man. If he believes in the ancient burial grounds, you just got to go where he's buried, and he'll sign it for you.
Well, that's a good point. I didn't see that. I didn't think about that. See, like he probably could come back from the afterlife.
Yeah, to sign your book
and sign my book.
All right, you never know, right? Why can't ghosts do that? Come back and sign a book. Why they gotta like haunt me and break windows and shit?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes they sometimes they do nice stuff. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, anyway, speaking of nice stuff, so as y'all can say or hear, we're back in our studios.
We are. It's better now. We have power and Wi-Fi.
We have power and the Wi-Fi over here.
Yeah.
Of course, y'all, we've been saying this whole month of the hurricanes and how it, affected the area that we live by.
Yeah, it's been bad.
And I think, Alison, you want to say something about this GoFundMe for this local brewery shop that you go to?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, down here where we live, it's been kind of devastating. Like a lot of the town just doesn't exist anymore. Anything below Main Street was basically washed out. And some really good friends of mine, Chris and Jess Whaley from Whaley Farm Brewery. They're basically going to have to rebuild the brewery, from what I understand. Like, it was, I've seen the inside of it, and it looked really bad. Like, I mean, basically the foundation looks like it's just like been pushed up. It's just cracked, and you can like look down into to a big hole in the ground. And I mean, they do have insurance, but I really don't know what insurance would cover. And I don't think they're 100% sure what insurance is going to cover too. But from my understanding, they're going to be closed for basically a year. And, that's basically a year without income. So, I mean, just think about that, like going an entire year without making any money, while spending money trying to rebuild something. But they're doing a GoFundMe. They're trying to raise $100,000, which is going to go to rebuild. It's going to go to helping support their employees, because all their employees are obviously out of a job too, and then support those guys for a year. And I don't know how much good it'll do, but I did want to mention it because these guys have been really, really nice to me, and these guys, have really stood up for me.
Yeah, they gave us a lot of good beer.
They do, yeah. I mean, I pretty much almost exclusively drink their beer now. Well, I guess not now, but now it's hard for me to even find beer that I want to drink, because Chris's beer is all I've wanted for the past 2 years, and now I'm like, what am I going to do for a year?
Yeah,
maybe I'll just not drink for a year. But yeah, they have a GoFundMe up. I'll put it on the Instagram page, and maybe you can put it on the Facebook page. And if anybody out there can give anything at all, any amount probably helps. I'm going to donate what I can, as long as they keep it open. I'll donate every so often. But they're really good people. And they need help.
Yeah. Do you know what the name of it?
The name of the GoFundMe?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to see. Like, I don't really do GoFundMe, but it says Rebuilding Whaley Farm Brewery Together.
Okay.
But the Whaley GoFundMe, but they've been there 2 years, and they're a huge part of the community, but they're going to have to like rebuild everything. And then start making beer again, of course, because, I don't even know if their brewery equipment's going to be able to be used. They may have to replace all of that too. Yeah. But they're going to, like all the Oktoberfest was dumped, and they're going to have to dump everything. Yeah. But yeah, it's bad. I mean, they're not the only people that need help, but they're the only ones I know that have a GoFundMe right now. And if anybody else does, I'll find out about it and we'll talk about it later. But, yeah, those guys are really cool, and they really need help.
Yeah, definitely support them, man. Local business and, local good old beer shop pumping out that beer. Yeah. Help them out if y'all can. Just check it out. Yeah.
Any amount helps. Yeah. Even if it's at one good old American dollar or whatever. Yeah. Any amount helps.
Any amount helps there. Yeah, and then, like I said, we'll post it on the Instagram and the Facebook page, the link for you to go on there. So just look out for that. So let's get into the history segment of what was going on in the world of the pro wrestling.
More happy stuff.
Yes, more happy stuff. In the world of pro wrestling and the metal music around the release date of Amityville 3D, November 18th, 1983.
Yeah.
All right. Good old 83 era. All right. The crazy stuff going on over there. So I'll go first because I got like a little list of stuff that was going on in the around this particular time. So there is something we've talked about before. All right, so I didn't want to get too much into it, but around this time we did have the Starcade of Flair for the Gold going on.
Yes.
Okay, which we've actually have break that down and talked about that before. That was the steel cage match between Ric Flair and Harley Race at Starcade 83.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the most legendary matches of that time. It really helped put Ric Flair on the map by winning the belt that night.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk about some other stuff going on around this particular era. And apparently, I just want to talk about some of these awards. Okay, because the award issue for the PWI was coming out this year around this time, and I just want to go with the list of some of the winners on here.
Okay.
So we'll go for who won. Who do you think won the PWI Most Inspirational Wrestler of the Year award
for 1983?
For 1983.
I know I'm going to be wrong because I'm sure this is surprising, but I'm going to say Dusty Rhodes.
That's a good answer, but you are wrong.
But it's wrong.
For the PWI, the most inspirational wrestler of the year 1983 was Hulk Hogan, brother.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. Who else could it be?
So I was like,
who else could it be?
It's like the most interesting.
I was not thinking of what PWI would consider inspirational in 1983. I was thinking truly inspirational.
Exactly. So, and I guess
of course,
this is
eat your vitamins, brother.
And this is like, basically the next year Hulk Hogan will, run the wrestling world from 84 on. So, but this is like when he was doing his, basically getting over in the, God, what was that territory?
AWA?
AWA, Vern, yeah.
Was he not, when was Hulkamania 84?
Yeah, I pretty much, well, no, I mean, it technically started, we talked about this, we started around 83 in Vern's territory. But it really got over after he beat the Iron Sheik in 84.
Okay, well, all right. So then my answer wasn't as bad as I thought because I was thinking he beat the Iron Sheik in 83. But no, that was 84. So that's actually a pretty good answer from them then.
Yeah.
For Hulk Hogan to be inspirational in 84 and 83 is a lot different than because like Hogan was just hype, right? It was hype to the moon. Like they Vince McMahon, like he always does. Or always did because he's gone now, but found something that got over, and then he just pushed it as far as he could push it. So Hulk Hogan in 83 being inspirational, I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
Because we still have the older Hulk Hogan, the younger Hulk Hogan. But yeah, okay. So I was wrong, but Hogan, I can see how that would be a good answer.
So who do you think won the PWI Most Improved Wrestler of the Year award?
In 1983?
Yeah, there ain't no way you're going to guess this one. Because I would have no idea.
Is it a wrestler that I've heard of?
Yes, but not a very common one.
Is he young in 1983?
Yeah, it's youngish.
Ooh. Jake Roberts.
No, but good guess. Brett Wayne Sawyer.
I'm not even sure who that is.
We've seen him a couple times, but
okay.
He ain't the most. I guess he just he sucked before and now he's improved. Okay.
All right.
So that was kind of a hard one, so I'll give you that one. All right, these two you might guess, and you just gotta really think 1983 wrestling when you think of these two next ones. Okay.
Okay.
So, who do you think won the PWI Most Hated Wrestler of the Year award? Who is the most hated wrestler according to PWI for the whole year of 1983?
And what they mean by hated is like a good heel?
Yeah, like a heel, like a bad heel. And remember, this is 1983. Remember, 83. What famous match happened in 83?
Yeah, give me a hint.
It involved a dog collar.
Oh, of course.
That was probably a really good hint.
Yeah, that was too good of a hint. Greg Valentine.
Yes. Greg Valentine won the PWI Most Hated Wrestler of the whole year.
Yeah, that was too good of a hint.
I wasn't going to say Chain. I probably should have just said Chain. All right, then the last one. Who won the top award for 1983 for the PWI Most Popular Wrestler of the whole year? This one kind of makes sense too, but I'm not sure if you're going to guess it.
Is it a wrestler we've talked about today already?
Oh, yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
No.
Oh.
Do you want one more guess or what?
Yeah, I'll give one more guess. Remember it's a wrestler we've...
This era, Hulk Hogan was like, big star, but he wasn't like gigantic big star yet.
Okay.
But who was a gigantic big star around this time? In his own way.
And it's somebody we've already mentioned.
No. We didn't mention him on this list yet. No, it's a known person.
Okay, that's what confuses me.
No. There's no double. There's no doubles.
I really feel like I should know this, but I just can't think. I'm gonna guess Ric Flair.
Ooh, that'd have been a really good guess. But it was the one and the only Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Oh, I would not have guessed that.
But remember, he was a big star.
He was. Yeah, he was. I just don't think of him as like, to me. So Snuka is like, I just think of him as undercard to Hulk Hogan. But then after 1984, everybody was undercard to Hulk Hogan. Yeah. So I guess
Yeah, but
before that, yeah, he was huge. Yeah. When was is this the year that had the famous match where he jumps off the cage in Madison Square Garden and Mick Foley was there?
I believe so, but I'm
that
not
was 83,
exactly
right?
sure.
But yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like these PWI lists though.
Yeah, they're always pretty. I wonder if there's people debating the list like they do nowadays. Back then in 1883,
there were.
Like they'll write them in. Like there's probably no message boards. There was no Twitter. There's no nothing. But there's probably some angry fan writing like a booklet saying, "You put Jimmy Snuka as the number one, yet he only had about 3 or 4 4.25-star matches. What about Ric Flair, who had about 4.7-star matches, brother? What about him?"
What about him? What about Ric Flair? You don't even know Ric Flair. You even Ric Flair?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, it's I'm sure they argued about it then. But how was that list done, and how is it done now compared to how it was done then? Like, so when they list they do their top 500 wrestlers in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is that like a shoot list, or is it just like some gimmick list?
No, it's like there's like a criteria, which I think the criteria is you at least have to wrestle a certain amount of matches for that year.
Right.
And they start the year, like I think they start in November and end November. I think I don't remember. But there's like a cutoff point that you have. That's why Roman Reigns this year wasn't even in the list, because he didn't wrestle as many matches as the list required for it to happen.
Right. Okay.
So. But I don't. Yeah, that's just how I heard. Now they could have changed it since 1983. I don't know if they do any kind of like mail-in ballots, or they're just like a crew that works on it. But yeah, it's always been a pretty popular list when it comes to wrestling fans throughout the years. So
the wrestlers are always excited about it when it comes out.
Yeah, well, some of them.
Some of them. Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of cool though to see somebody like when Jordan Grace or somebody like that makes the top 500 and she's excited about it, or the top 100 and she's excited about it. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I don't know. It's always cool to see. I've never bought PWI, but it's a cool idea. It's a cool magazine.
Yeah. So that was your list of the 83 wrestlers of the year. Pretty interesting. So another interesting thing that happened on the actual date that this movie came out, November 18th, 1983, our boy Ozzy Osbourne came back to the Retro Blood because he has released his third studio album, Bark at the Moon.
Yes.
In the United States.
Yeah. So I assume you've heard the song Bark at the Moon.
Yes.
Have you heard anything else on this album?
Not a whole lot. I did like the Bark at the Moon song. And Waiting for Darkness is a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good album. I think it's a really underrated Ozzy Osbourne album. And as everything that has to do with Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne, it has lots of controversy attached to it. And a lot of people, especially these days when people hate somebody for life for doing something bad, a lot of people hate Ozzy for, how he treated everybody during this time, which really it was Sharon doing all that shit. But so basically there's a story behind this. I have actually two stories about this album. One was basically Ozzy, as some people may or may not know, Ozzy doesn't really write songs at all. Like he never wrote hardly any of the lyrics for the Black Sabbath songs. Geezer Butler wrote all of those lyrics, but he does contribute melodies. So like like during the Black Sabbath days, there are demo versions of those songs where Ozzy just making up lyrics. So, and he like came up with the melodies for the songs, and then Geezer would write lyrics, and then he would sing those lyrics, and that'd be the final version. But Ozzy basically hired Bob Daisley to write lyrics for his solo albums, the ones with Randy Rhoads, and they kept getting Bob Daisley kept getting fired because he would continually argue about royalties and things like that. But I mean, he did write the lyrics to all those songs. And so when this album came out, Randy Rhoads had just died, like maybe the year before, wasn't that 1982?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, that was 1982. So in November of 1983, he's got a new album out. And he's got a hot new guitar player named Jake E. Lee, who came out of Ronnie James Dio's band, I believe. So Jake E. Lee and Bob Daisley wrote the songs for Bark at the Moon, from my understanding. But Ozzy and Sharon bought the songwriting credit from them. So they paid them a lump sum of money, which they probably needed. And all the songs on the album say written by Ozzy Osbourne, even though he didn't really write any of those songs. But and now it'll say all lyrics and music credited to Ozzy Osbourne. Bark at the Moon, it did end up getting writing credit to Jake E. Lee and Bob Daisley. I think that happened through a lawsuit, but those guys actually wrote all the songs on this album. But they're all credited to Ozzy Osbourne, even though he didn't really write any of them. At least from my understanding. And from Ozzy's history, that would make plenty of sense. Because he would go on to hire Lemmy to write songs for him. A lot, Zakk Wylde, lots of other people have written songs for Ozzy, which is not to diminish Ozzy at all. I mean, he's a great singer. He's an iconic, heavy metal guy. And in his later years has tried to do a lot of good for the world, but he's not a songwriter. And,
which is fine.
And his wife is one of those double-edged swords. Like, he would not have a career without her, but she's also like one of the worst, or best, how you look at it, business people in the world. Like, she's a really good business person, but she's like one of those people that will just screw you out of everything she can. Just like her dad, Don Arden, was the same way when he was managing Black Sabbath. He was the same way. Like, he just, any ruthless tactic he could use, he would do, and so did she, and she still does that to this day. But I remember when this came out, and in the mall where we live, when the mall used to be like a thing that people went to, there was a record store. I believe it was called Family Records. And now that's me bringing back a very, very old memory.
Yeah, buddy.
But I believe it was called Family Records, and they had all kinds of shit in there. Like, that's where I first saw an Iron Maiden poster. And I remember going in there, and back then, like, my parents would just go shopping, and I would just wander around the mall. At like 8 or 9 years old, I would just like wander around the mall by myself, and I would always end up in the record store. And I remember when this came out, there was this huge, and it probably wasn't as big as my little kid mind remembers it. Mm-hmm. But I remember it taking up most of a wall of this giant poster, like a mural type poster of the cover to Bark at the Moon with Ozzy as the werewolf. And I thought that was the coolest thing I had ever seen. Like, I thought that shit was fucking awesome because I loved old horror movies. I was just starting to get into real horror movies, or modern horror movies. But like, I love like the old horror movies, like the werewolf movies and stuff like that. And to see that was just awesome, which is really, really cool. I don't think I got this album though at the time for some reason, but I would get it not too long after this. But yeah, that's my story about that album coming out. And I remember that big mural on that wall, and I'll like I said, I could see it today just as clear as it was then. Although I see it like with like little kid eyes, though. Yeah, which is kind of.
It does have a good cover. With him
it has a great cover. Yeah, it has a great cover. This was kind of a change though. So this album was more synth influenced. So it has more keyboards and stuff in it than he would have before, and like the guitars had that 1980s sound to them, where Before they were more traditional metal sounding, but that's how kind of everything got by this point. 83, 84, 85, everything was starting to sound like a 1980s album, which, you know, good or bad, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah,
apparently Bark at the Moon was his first time doing a music video.
That makes sense because I think MTV formed in 1983 as well.
Yeah.
And this would have been a really good there was a lot of good imagery for this to make a video with. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I had 2 singles, Bark at the Moon and So Tired, but Bark at the Moon's really the only big hit on this album. But it is a good album. I mean, it's a good album. Rock and Roll Rebel is a great song. I wish he would have played more of these songs live, but really he only ever played Bark at the Moon after this tour, I think.
Oh, really?
I believe so, yeah. Center of Eternity is also really good. But yeah, it's a good album, and definitely people should check it out.
Yeah, check it out. We'll play some at the end of this episode for you all.
We will.
So, but yeah, I mean, you know, Ozzy Osbourne obviously one of the most influential rock stars of this era.
Yeah.
And I guess they were like semi-questioning his run after the Randy Rhoads died. But, you know, this album really helped him get back onto the charts. The charts again.
Yeah.
And getting up there.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine what that was like trying to replace Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Randy Rhoads is like one of the best heavy metal guitarists, or probably one of the best guitarists ever.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the best. I mean, you know, a lot of people could say he is the best, but he's definitely one of the best of all time. And finding somebody to replace him probably was not very easy, I would imagine.
Nope. But they, you know, they found somebody good for this album in a little different direction, but it, you know, it definitely helped out.
Absolutely.
His career. So check it out, everybody. We'll play some at the end of this episode. We brought that back. So let's get into who booked this shit, brother.
Yeah, who booked this shit?
The Amityville 3D. We're already at number 3. Can you believe it? I mean, fuck, bro.
I know, it's been less. So think about this. It's been less than 10 years since the DeFeo murders. They were in 1974.
Yeah.
So it's 1983. So we've had the DeFeo murders. We've had the Lutz is buying the house. The Lutz is getting haunted and leaving the house. Them writing a book with Jay Anson. Them making a movie based on the book by Jay Anson. And now we have the second sequel. So we're up to 3 movies, a book, a haunting, and a mass murder in less than 10 years.
It's a hot property at this time.
It is a hot property.
It's very interesting. So apparently Amityville 3D is also known as Amityville 3 The Demon.
Is there a demon in this movie?
I guess the purple light or whatever. Or the hole with the water in it.
The thing that came out of the well, I guess. I don't know. All right. Well, anyway.
So it was written by William Wallace.
Which is a pen name.
Okay. For who?
David Ambrose.
Gotcha. Okay.
So David Ambrose is he's a novelist and a playwright and a screenwriter, and he probably did not want to have his name attached to this, if I had to guess.
Yep.
Which is why it was released under William Wallace. But the only movie that I know of a couple of movies that I've seen that he made was a movie called Daryl, which is a science fiction movie, and a movie called The Final Countdown, which is a fantastic movie if you've never seen it. It's about time travel from an aircraft carrier, I believe. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but he helped write that, and he wrote a bunch of TV stuff in England. But he's an English writer, but I'm guessing he did not want to have his name attached to this, and he did this for the money.
Well, you got that's the way to do it. Come up with a gimmick name.
Exactly.
Put it on there. I like it.
Exactly.
So apparently, obviously this movie, it was released in the 3D format because that was a big, deal with a lot of production companies at this time to release the 3D format. And apparently the production company, Orion Pictures, they wanted. That's why they wanted this movie to be in 3D, so that it was like all there.
Of course.
And this also was an international co-production between the United States and Mexico. Very interesting.
Yeah, because they filmed some of the outside scenes in Mexico again.
Yes.
Like they did at Amityville too.
So
yeah.
A couple of things about it. And I think... Hey, hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear myself on your other end, though. Oh, wait. Okay, it's gone now. That was weird.
I don't know how that was happening, but okay.
Yeah. All right, so... Hold on. Is your headphones, like, turned up way loud?
Not really, and they're on my head. You shouldn't be able to hear anything.
All right. That's interesting. Let me try it again. All right. So a couple of things about the film. Due to a lawsuit between the Lux family and Dino, our boy Dino, who did the last film, number 2, over the storyline, which did not involve the Lux family, Amityville 3D was not initially pronounced as a sequel, and the name Lux is never used in the film. However, the film does make a reference to the original Amityville Horror, storyline with the what's the family called? The D? What are they called?
The DeFeos.
With the DeFeos.
They do mention that one time in the movie.
Yeah.
About that there was a quadruple murder or whatever.
Yeah, and the character of John, like we were saying earlier, John Baxter, is loosely based on Stephen Kaplan, who was trying to prove the Lux story was a hoax at the time, and it was planned upon its release. So, so he's loosely based on him. So that's the only ties that we have to the actual Amityville story in canon, brother, is the DeFeos. When the girl, I believe it was the Susan, the daughter, talking about the murders that happened in his house. She totally ignored the sister fucking from the second movie. All right. And they didn't bring up the Luxes at all. It was just the DeFeos. And like I said, and this John was supposed to be like the guy who was trying to debunk everything throughout the whole movie. So that's your 2 tie-ins to the actual Amityville story.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It was also directed by Richard Fleischer.
Yes.
Which I want to mention because he is like a legitimate director. He's like a real director, not like somebody they would get to make a horror movie in 1983. But he had directed some really good movies. I mean, he made the Disney movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He made Tora, 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 which is an incredible movie. He made Soylent Green. Like, he's made a lot of really, really good movies with a lot of really, really good actors. So getting him for this movie was probably a big deal I would imagine.
Well, apparently he did get nominated for the International Fantasy Film Award for Best Film for Amityville 3D.
I mean, I guess I could kind of see that in a way. I don't know what else came out.
I'll have to look at the list, I guess.
Well, wait a minute. What was the award for? Best Fantasy Film?
Yeah.
In 1980, in a year that Star Wars came out.
Yeah, well, he was nominated. It doesn't mean he fucking won.
He didn't win it. Okay.
No.
It
was nominated for the international. It has to be an international film now.
Well, I don't even know what that means. I mean, I think, is that a movie that was?
It has to be not. It can't. All the production cannot happen in the United States. That's what I think it means.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, this one was Mexico and the United States, so maybe that's how they slipped it in.
I don't know. Maybe. Let's see.
That's how they slipped it in, brother.
I wonder what the.
But the thing I want to bring up though is after he did this movie, apparently he did Conan the Destroyer.
He did, yes, the
Holy
next
shit.
year, yeah.
What? That's awesome. Like, that movie was fucking great. Conan the Destroyer. He must have just did this one for money.
Yeah, I mean, Conan the Destroyer is a good movie. It's not as good as Barbarian, but it is a good movie. Let's see. I'm trying to look up this award that he didn't win.
All right. Well, while you do that, I'm going to talk about the production.
Do that.
So, like I said, it's an international co-production between the United States and Mexico. Like the previous installment, exterior scenes from Amityville 3D were shot at the same house in Toms River, New Jersey, where the first 2 films were filmed. which closely resembled the infamous house of Amityville, New York, like we talked about in our reviews. A house nearby was employed for the exterior of Nancy's house. Interiors were filmed in Mexico. Likewise, the interiors, Dr. West Laboratory, the magazine offices were filmed on location in Mexico. And then Melanie's car accident was filmed on the streets of Mexico City as well, too. So a lot of filming and production around Mexico. And I believe that this movie was the... I gotta see if I can get that confirmed or not. I believe this one might have been the last film that they actually filmed the house from New Jersey in, but I don't got that confirmed on here. But I thought I read that somewhere. Oh, actually, that might be for number 4. So
yeah, those people that own that house in New Jersey are making bank. They're probably making more money than anybody else other than the producers, because every time they want to film a new Amityville movie at their house, they get paid again.
Yeah, it's already the third movie. It's the third movie, and I believe we're gonna have a fourth one in the same house. So
yes.
Pretty good stuff. Did you figure out what our boy Richard was going against?
No. There's surprisingly little information about this so-called award.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yeah, his freaking he needs to get his praise for doing some flies in 3D. All right, and making up Hoax magazine or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I mean, like they won like they have a different award. The best film for that year was Scanners from David Cronenberg. But yeah, I can't actually find a list from 1983 of what was nominated for this award. I just, it's just not, that information is just not here. Let's see, Fanto. That company is not the company, but the group that does it is called Fanto Sporto.
Yeah,
it's a film festival. Yeah, I mean, Scanners won Best Film, but I don't think that was the same award as the one that he didn't win. Let's see, but I can't find any other list.
All right.
Yeah,
I think I might have found it. So let's see what this says. I asked the good old AI, Google AI.
Oh, I'm sure this is accurate, but yeah.
So it says,
tell us what AI says.
So I said, who won this award in 1983, the International Fantasy Film Award for Best Film? All right.
Yeah, but it's going to say Scanners, right?
No, it says Something Wicked This Way Comes. Won the 1983 Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film.
So I got that result too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this award is the same thing as what became the Saturn Award.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I'm not sure. We're probably the only people in the world that are interested in this.
Actually.
But this is like a Portuguese. It's a Portuguese film festival. And they award fantasy movies. Like I said, Scanners was was awarded best movie for that year. And then Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is a great movie, by the way. If Disney would ever put that on Disney Plus or release it on Blu-ray, that'd be fucking fantastic. But that's a great movie as well, and it just definitely deserved to win.
Every time I keep putting it up, they just keep giving them Saturn Award. So I don't know. I can't really.
I don't know if it's considered the same thing. And then when their awards are all in Portuguese, so I don't know what any of this shit says.
Well,
and the award that he won is not listed there. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's a gimmick reward, brother.
It's a gimmick. It is. It's a gimmick reward. But anyway, he was nominated for Amityville 3D, which it was directed really well. So he deserved to be nominated.
I don't know,
sure.
Man.
He made the best out of the. He made chicken salad out of chicken shit, I'd say.
Well, let's explore that because let's get in to the.
Let's get into this chicken shit.
Let's get into the chicken shit and see if it became chicken salad at the end. Because let's get into the Amityville 3D.
Let's do it.
The whole world knows the story of this house. Now, its terror takes on a new dimension. horror reaches out beyond the edge of the screen.
Get out! Everybody get out of the house!
Dino De Laurentiis presents Amityville 3D.
All right. So we start off with some 3D graphics to open us up near the famous house.
Yes.
All right. The cold open with the 3D graphics. So we already know what we're expecting over here. So we start off, we have this older couple, and they are meeting a younger couple, and apparently this older couple, the wife is like one of those mediums where she can like get the dead, you know what I mean? Spirit, call the dead, and
yeah, she's a medium. Yeah, she's doing it. They're doing like a seance.
Yeah,
which I always love seance scenes in movies. I just love the idea of a seance. I think it's just a cool idea, and it makes a cool image in a movie always. However, this one, so I'm glad that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching it, I was like, okay, like this is the fakest seance I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Where she's like literally sitting there going, ooh,
ooh, and she's like coughing. That was my favorite part. She's like coughing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway, yeah. So the wife is trying to reach her son. Okay. So apparently this couple turned the Amityville house into like a business. Which, I thought was a great idea, to be honest with you. You do some psychic readings in the Amityville house because that's where the spirits lay and shit.
Well, yeah, that's kind of your idea, right? You would buy the house and make it an Airbnb and do shit like this.
Yeah.
Which I can't believe nobody's done, but like you were saying, but yeah.
So she's doing it, and she's reaching the son. I think the son's name is Ricky or something. And
poor Ricky.
Yeah, she's like, she's saying, "Oh, your son is passed. He's passed in the fire." Hint, hint for later.
Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint for later. All right. And then while she's doing that, we can hear, she's like, doing her coffin. She's like really getting into the gimmick. And we could see that there's like this like green light that comes on, and like some of these spooky sounds start happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, the wife just starts taking pictures of her. All right, and everybody just starts to like, freak out a little bit. And she's like, "Oh yeah." And then everybody just starts walking in, like these camera guys and everything. And then everybody's like, "Oh yes, you have now been exposed on Reveal magazine."
Reveal.
That's what it was. Reveal magazine. I said exposed, but same thing.
Same thing.
Maybe the exposed is like the NC-17 version of the Reveal magazine.
Maybe it's the one where you have pictures of people fucking their sisters. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like from part 2.
Yes, exactly. So they're on there, and so this was kind of a big thing, kind of during this. Every time there's like ghost investigations or mediums or contacting spirits from the dead, there's always going to be the skeptic people on there. You know what I mean? Trying to debunk everything. And so that's what or a character that we find out name is John and Melanie. They're not like really a couple or anything. They just work for the magazine, and they go to different mediums or different ghostly people to expose their business for being frauds and preying on human emotion. All right, so that's like the big tone for the movie when it comes to the Reveal magazine. That's basically what they do, and they eventually, the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna sue you guys for coming in here." He's like, "Well, no, we actually had a court order to come in here. Here's a district attorney, and here's a doctor. All right, so now you're gonna put you on our front cover of Reveal magazine." And of course, the girl spits on Emmy. The girl spits on the Melanie. Yes, yeah. And then they leave. All right.
So I was a little confused already at this point. So I know that the real estate agent explains it to us, but these people didn't own the house, right? He still owned it, but they were just in there running the seance business for some reason.
Well, the guy who owned the house, okay, he comes up here pretty soon.
It's been a little bit since I watched this, but I thought that the real estate agent, Sanders, I thought he owned the house and he bought it to flip because it was cheap.
Yes, he did.
He bought it himself, and he's trying to sell it, but he can't sell it, and then he ends up selling it to John.
Yes,
which is coming up in a minute, but
yeah.
So he comes along, and so yeah, I'm not really. I think he explained it, but I don't remember how these people ended up in this house.
They basically just rented it. They're like renters.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, because when he was talking to John in the basement and everything, because basically the John character, he was trying to loop Sanders in with it. Like he thought like Sanders was like involved with it. You know what I mean? Part of the scam. Yeah. But then Sanders like, no, man, I just rented it to people. And then he told him the whole story like you did. You know, I thought this was going to be a great investment because I got this shit for super cheap. And I thought after the murders or whatever would blow over, but it hadn't. It's been a very bad investment for me.
Yeah.
So, and we do get a couple scenes of flies around everywhere. You know, because that was part of the Lux story where there was like flies around the house during the non-fly season.
The non-fly season, yeah.
Yes.
So the flies become kind of the symbol for Amityville Horror. Like there's even a fly on the cover of the book.
Yeah.
Or the version I have. But yeah, the flies become like the symbol for the Amityville Horror, and when you see the flies, you know that the ghost / demon / whatever is around.
There was one funny part though with Sanders when he was walking and like he just like fell down into the hole. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Well, okay, so right, but he was like, I don't know. I guess old boards can give way, but he's standing on there for quite a while, and then all of a sudden he just falls through it into the well.
Yeah, and then they make it funny like it's a gateway to hell, and they think it's all just tricks that was laid there by the previous residents.
Yeah, because John Baxter just says, "Oh, it's just an old well."
So now John is talking to Melanie about buying the house. Like he wants to buy the house, and she's like, "You're really gonna buy that thing?" He's like, "Well, I'm not superstitious."
Yeah, I mean it's a great deal, right? He's buying it real cheap.
This is also a big talking point in the film too about how John was just not superstitious. So since he's not superstitious, weird things don't happen to him.
Right.
Okay. So, and then he basically just saying like, yeah, the reason I want to buy the house because the apartment I'm staying in is too small. Like this way I could do more work. And John's goal is to get out of Reveal magazine and write himself a book.
Yes, he wants to write a book.
Now, is he writing a book about himself?
Well, his wife implies that he wants to write a novel.
Okay.
But she could just be making fun of him because she kind of like tries to belittle him when he moves out or whatever.
Yeah.
So to move into the Amityville house.
Speaking of his wife, Nancy, she's trying to talk him out of it. Like, why do you want to buy like a haunted house, basically? He's like, no, I got to change my life. I'm just not happy right now. I'm not happy in this apartment with you all here. And she's like, okay, fine, we'll leave. And then he leaves. And then before he leaves, the daughter shows up, okay, which we find out her name is going to be Susie, which is the girl from Full House. Ever seen Full House?
Yes, I have seen Full House when it was on and it was new. Yeah, Lori Loughlin. She's a pretty famous actress.
And apparently this is like her first movie she was in.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But
yeah, it's also one of Meg Ryan's first movies too, and she became a really famous actress.
Yeah. So she shows up with Lisa, her friend. All right, and they're talking about the house and everything. And then Mel, she goes to develop some photos that she took, and she can see that the landowner Sanders, his face is all fucked up all over all these photos that she took of her and the house.
Yeah, this is where I first started getting really interested. I really like the concept of this. I like the idea that, you know, his photos are like, he looks like he's decaying or whatever, in the photos, like he's rotting. So it's like, oh, this guy's going to die. But yeah, Meg Ryan plays Lisa, by the way, Susan's friend.
There you go. So you got two famous actresses on here right there. That's pretty cool. Playing the scene together. And they both good during the film. At first, when I looked at the Susan girl, I was like, man, I recognized her. So at first, I thought it might have been that girl from Saved by the Bell. You know, the one with the darker hair?
Yeah, no.
But then I was like, oh, okay, Full House makes a lot more sense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I know her from... She was in movies before she was in Full House. A few movies. But nothing really big. I think Full House is like where she became like famous.
Yeah, and she did that a little later on in the 80s. So she did. Yeah. She actually did a lot more shows and movies before she even did the Full House, which is interesting.
Right. This movie actually has a lot of pretty famous actors in it. I mean, Tony Roberts is famous for being in a bunch of Woody Allen movies, and then Tess Harper is a fairly famous actress too, playing Nancy.
Those all over the place.
Yeah.
So now we see the owner going back into the house because he's supposed to meet John there, Mr. Baxter. So he goes to the house and everything, and he hears noises throughout the whole house, and he eventually winds up upstairs, calling out for Mr. Baxter the whole time. And then he goes into the room where there's 3D flies everywhere.
Woo! 3D flies, brother.
The door locks on him, and then all these 3D flies kill him. Alison, if you were in a horror movie, let's say somebody came to you, right, and they had a contract, for to be in a horror movie, and the way you die is by 3D flies. What would you think about that?
I'd say sign me up.
I'm like, death by 3D flies, huh? How does that work? Like,
hey man,
can flies kill anybody though?
They can if they're demon possessed flies.
Well, what do they drop like? Do they drop like serum in them or something? I was confused.
I don't know the ins and outs of how this thing works, but yeah, I mean, I bet demon possessed flies could kill you. You know,
how does that work? Now, a 3D fly, like, did he have to wear glasses to see him? Or I'm confused.
Yes. You mean how did it work when you went to see the movie?
No, how did Sanders die by a 3D fly?
Oh, well, I mean, we remember when we did the movie The Fly, which is in the archives for people who want to go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
And then he would but he
turned into a fly.
Well, right, but these are already flies. But they're like he was a giant fly, and he would projectile vomit acid on these people, and they would melt.
Okay.
So it's the same concept. It's just you have to have way more flies if they're
I got you. So it's acid. Okay. Death by 3D fly acid. Gotcha.
Exactly.
I like my notes here though. Was it Sanders or it was probably Sanders. Sanders, the owner, he gets flied on.
Yeah, his name is Sanders. Clifford Sanders. Okay. But yeah, he death by fly. Fantastic.
So now John shows up. He's like walks up the stairs, and then he hears Sanders choking, and he's like, "Jesus!" All right, and he hears some choking. He sees Sanders all choking everything, and he's all basically Sanders just dies. So the ambulance comes and gets him. All right, and then we have Melanie. She's calling John, and then John was basically like, "Yeah, it was weird. Like the Sanders guy just had a heart attack."
Right. I thought he said he died of a stroke.
Yeah, stroke. Well, he couldn't tell. Like he said, like I don't know if he died from a heart attack or a stroke or something.
Right.
Something happened to him. I mean, I did like the line. It was like, well, just look at the guy. You know, he was going to live that long. I was like, damn. And then Melanie shows John the pictures of his face looking all fucked up. And then Melanie's like, there's something weird going on over here. And then John's like, look at him. He was just a sick man. Look at him. All right. You're just superstitious. I'm gonna start telling you that all the time, Alison. When you're
that I'm just superstitious.
You're superstitious. All right. You were just so superstitious. Okay. Last review. You know what I mean? Where he was just trying to have sex with his sister, and the priest was dreaming it. That was just superstitious of you.
That was just me being superstitious. Okay. Fair enough.
And I like it when John, like he's going through the photos and we can see him checking the photos in 3D. Have you ever checked photos in 3D?
No, and I'm not sure how that would even
Well,
work.
you put on your 3D glasses and you just go through a bunch of photos.
Okay, sure.
And so now Melanie, she is going to basically what Melanie is doing is she's going to send her pictures to the lab.
Yeah.
Okay. And she wants to like make sure the film is like because the guy was like, okay, well maybe the film, you know, was a bad film or it was kind of busted. It was like, well, only for his face. It was kind of weird.
Exactly. Yeah.
So she's bringing him to a doctor so he can rule out all the what these photos could be, like if it's debunked. But he said, and then she's like, well, what if this can be debunked and stuff? It's like, well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to do the 3% that it can't be debunked. Because like I said, the main like story part for this film was debunking if weird stuff was going on during the whole time. So now John and his daughter Susie, they look at the house. He said he hasn't seen any ghosts here. All right. And she's like, well, how does it feel to live in like a haunted house and stuff? He's like, well, I haven't seen any ghosts here. And he's basically going on saying like, you know, all this stuff of being haunted stuff is pretty much in your mind. It's always surrounded by the fear of death. That's why people get scared of like haunted stuff and haunted houses. And what do you think about that house? I thought it was a pretty good explanation.
I think that's a good explanation, yeah, for that kind of thing.
And then John goes on saying like, you know, he thinks that the you know, like the ghost hunters, the mediums and stuff, they basically exploit people and exploit people's fears. And that's why he decided to work for Reveal Magazine. But he also feels that him working for Reveal Magazine is also contributing to the problem as well of exploiting people.
Yes. So that was a common thing, especially in the early part of the 20th century. So after World War I and after World War II, because I guess so many people died in wars, that both of those times, mediums, seances, psychics, Ouija boards, things like that became really popular again because people were trying to talk to dead people. Houdini famously was trying to debunk as many people as he could, but there were a lot of people fleecing people out of money. You know, and basically you just would ask a person questions and get them to reveal things about their lives, and you make educated guesses on what their dead loved one would say, and then you get paid, basically. And a lot of people are very successful doing it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what he's talking about, is like it's like they're just fleecing people out of money, and you know, they're fleecing people out of money, and he's going to stop it. But he's also saying that exposing it is making the problem potentially worse because it's giving people ideas they may not have had before.
Yes. So he also says that, hey, you can pick whatever room you want for Susie, and she picks the crazy fly room.
Of course.
Come on now. But and it also has the eyes on there, like the two eyes of the house. It's in that room too. So now John, he has a meeting with a very special agent for his book. All right, and Mel's all happy for him, but she wants to talk to him and go over some stuff for the magazine. He's like, okay, well, can you meet me at my place around 6? All right, so then she goes to the house. She feels all creepy looking at the house, kind of like how we've seen for the last 2 movies. There are certain people that get the weird feelings right before they go inside the house. We get shots of the house in 3D.
Ooh.
Melanie, I call her Mel, but her name is Melody, so I'm just going to call her Mel. She goes inside the house. She asks for Dolores, which is like the maid or something. She hears footsteps upstairs. Door is locked. She's trying to find a way out. She opens the door and it's Dolores, and they both freak out on each other because they get freaked out in this house. John leaves the meeting, and he's in an elevator, and there's flies around him. Uh-oh.
That's how you know the demon's around.
And guess what? The elevator turns into a demon elevator in 3D.
Yeah, it's such a gimmick. So it's like, what can we do that will come toward the audience? So let's have him fall in an elevator and survive.
Alison, have you ever been into an elevator in 3D before?
Well, technically, they're all elevators are in 3D because we live in a 3D world. So yes, I have.
Oh, I like that. No, you're just too superstitious. Okay. Anyway, so I always love like the elevator. Like we actually get a lot of that in these 80s movies. You know what I mean? People like I swear it's like almost every other month of our reviews, there's somebody dying or getting attacked in an elevator.
Right. And I wonder if people are scared about elevators because of the movies, or if people were worried about elevators before that and then they just added it into movies. Because technically, from my understanding, at least from my little bit of research, it is not possible for an elevator car to fall down to an elevator shaft. Like it's not like even if like the cable is completely cut, there's like safeguards that hold it in place. Yeah,
it is kind of freaky though, being in an elevator that shakes a lot.
Well, that moves back and forth. And to think that you're going that high and you're being lifted that high by a steel cable in a metal car in a metal box is kind of freaky. But like, have you ever been in those glass elevators where you can see like the floor and see through the floor and the wall? Those are pretty awesome. A little bit anxiety inducing, but. So
now Dolores leaves. She says, "Hey, the fuse is out, and you know where it is, right?" It's like, "Yeah, it's in the basement. So good luck. I'm out of here." All right.
Good luck.
So then Mel, she's checking the door, all right, to make sure that the door, because a lot of the doors keeps locking behind Mel in the house, so she keeps checking them, and she's checked this door many times, saying it's staying open. So John finally gets off the elevator, and this guy was like, "Oh shit, man, this thing was inspected last week. I don't know what happened." I was like, all right. Well. So it's like, so now Mel, she's cold in the house. The thermometer blows out in 3D. She goes downstairs to turn on the generator. But before she can do that, she runs back upstairs. And she's like, fuck this stuff. I'm running back upstairs. And then the door, no shit. I don't know how they did this, but this had to be in 3D. The door busts open, right? And then we get wind in 3D.
Wind in 3D. That's amazing. What amazing filmmaker this guy is.
How the fuck?
How do you get 3D wind?
So so let me get this straight.
Yes.
And Friday the 13th, we at least had an eyeball pop out in 3D.
I know.
And Jaws 3D, I'm pretty sure we get the shark teeth and shit in 3D.
Yep.
And then in Amityville, we get wind.
Yeah, Jaws 3D had that cool scene where the shark comes through the glass and then the glass breaks and goes into the audience. That was a cool effect. Yeah, this is the 3D not as great.
So we get flies, a house, and wind.
Yes.
So then John arrives and lights just turn on, which I actually thought that was kind of funny. All right, and then he hears Melody crying. He's like, "What the hell's going on?" She's like, "Don't touch me, stay away!" And she runs out, freaking out. So then John goes and visits Melanie inside of some storage room, and he asks what happened last night. He says like, "Hey, when I went home, the lights were on and stuff." Then Melanie's like the lights were out. It was the worst nightmare I've ever had in my house. I'm not going back to the house ever again. And I don't care if you think I'm superstitious or not. I'm not going to the house for any reason. And he's like, and then he says, because John is like, he's just Mr. Debunk. He's like, well, why is it only happening? It's not happening to me at all. And she's like, I don't know. Okay.
That's a good point, though. He's making. Why is it happening to everyone else, but not for me?
Yeah. And she doesn't know. She just leaves. She gets all pissed off. And then we have like this like girl who's being tested on, and she freaks out in 3D. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And then this doctor, which I believe is Dr. West Dr. Eli or something. He was like the doctor that was in the beginning of the film. He was like, she's on a 52-hour sensory sensory. So basically, he's doing an experiment on her. I'm not really sure why. So she can't see, she can't touch, she can't feel, she can't do anything. All right. I was like, okay. Well, why? He's like, well,
why?
Don't worry about that. That's why. So Nancy doesn't. So now we cut back. Nancy doesn't want her daughter Susan going to the house at all. All right, and the doctor. I guess Nancy knew the doctor or something, and the doctor cannot say yes or he can't say a definitive yes or no if the house, a physical house, can harm people or not. Okay. He said most of the time ghosts could be things that just follow you around. You know, like poltergeists and stuff, they can follow you around. A house entity is a whole different thing, but we don't know too much about the unknown when it comes to that. All right? And so Nancy didn't get any answers and stuff, so she kind of just leaves. So Nancy was the one watching this girl and this guy's experiment of having somebody not be able to see, touch, or hear anything for hours. So now we have Susie and Lisa. Lisa wants to get into the house while the dad's not home. And of course, Susie's worried because she's like, I don't know if I should, do that. Lisa says, you'll like this one. If I may, everybody. Lisa tells Susie, you could have like sex with a ghost. I've been reading about it. All right.
Wow. Okay.
I'm thinking like the only thing that comes to mind is like that. What was it? Hollow Man or whatever.
Well, yeah, Hollow Man. He's just invisible.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's the kind of sex you want from the Hollow Man guy. So I don't know what kind of romantic tales Lisa has been reading about having sex with a ghost. Well, no. Well, wasn't that what was that one movie? Where like the ghost was in the house and they made clay together?
Ghost. It's called Ghost. They make clay together.
Yeah, don't they make clay something together?
Yeah, there's like a scene. I don't know if I've ever seen that movie, but it's like such a part of pop culture that it's Demi Moore and the Dirty Dancing guy. What's his name? Patrick Swayze. Yeah. And he dies, I think, and then he comes back to visit her as a ghost, and there's like a scene where they're making like a clay pot together or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's weird that she says that I read about sex with ghosts. Like, where did you read this?
Well, maybe it was in Reveal magazine.
Maybe.
Or actually, no. This one was in Exposed magazine. That's where she
Exposed.
That's the one I write. I am the writer who writes about sex with ghosts all the time.
Yeah.
So now Lisa's exploring the house, and this is when Susan talks about all the DeFeo murders. All right, this is when I was like, right, because I watch these movies first, and then I read about the history of them. So usually when you hear Amityville 3, you think it's going to be like the third, sequel to this two films we just saw. Okay, yeah. But they don't bring up they don't bring up any of the characters from number 2 at all. Okay, so they just went straight to the DeFeo murders. From the original, true life story. So we're not doing any kind of like movie canon here at all. Okay, we're just going straight to the actual source material. And then she just goes over how all the murders happen and everything. And she explains the killing. They go down to the basement. They look into the hole, saying this is where there's some supernatural, spiritual, Indian burial grounds was buried under this house. We kind of got that from the two other movies. Like, remember, this house is built on an Indian spiritual burial ground.
Yeah.
And then John arrives after they hear a noise. He's like, "Oh, you're not in school." And she's like, "Well, because there's a teacher strike." And he's like, "Another one?" So I guess teacher strikes were big during this period.
I guess so.
So now Susan is talking with Mom about the house, and the mom absolutely does not want her to go over there anymore at all. All right? And then John...
Which makes sense.
Yes. Well, the whole Nancy character in this film was... Her whole character was trying to stop Susan from going to the house, and she failed at every part of that.
Right.
Every part of her, like, she didn't really work. She didn't have any other kind of style of dialogue. Her sole purpose was to stop Susan from going to this house, and she failed at all of it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of character developed for most of these people, except for the three, John, Melanie, and Susan, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So John types his book, hears some noises upstairs, and then there's a bunch of smoke in the bathroom. So Melanie now looks at the pictures again, and while she's doing it, she sees a small demon face, and I laughed.
No, yeah.
Did you see that thing? It looked like a little gremlin.
I know, it's cute. Well, little demon face.
So she freaks out, right? And she's driving in her car. Well, I like my notes here. She drives while a fly is in the car in 3D.
Yeah. Well, all the flies are going to be in 3D because that'd be that'd be natural. That'd be a natural
That's
thing
why
to
you
do.
paid your $2.57 ticket, brother, for the 3D.
Exactly, to see the 3D flies.
So now she's in her car, and now the car is getting stuck. This is also from the original story, too. And the car gets so stuck that she runs right into the back of a pickup truck with a pipe going through it. And she runs right into the pipe, and then, of course, the pipe crashes through the window in 3D, because you have to have something like that.
Yeah.
We got to have one of that. Yep. All right. And then this part was the only part that I thought the movie got like a little crazy, because we had to have like one shocking death. So Mel's coat catches on fire because she ran into the car and everything, and her red coat's on fire, and she's stuck in the car, and she basically just ends up burning alive. And I was like, oh man, that's nasty. So that was the only disturbing part of the film to me, was like her death. And it was foreshadowed, because remember, she and the crazy old lady at the beginning says like, "Oh, your son died in the fire," so it's kind of like a foreshadowing that she would die. In the fire.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that till now. That's a good point. Good point you make.
So she's dying in the fire. This guy comes up in the car. He opens the car and he sees the burnt Melanie do like a zombie, reach out for a second, and then she dies. And then the car eventually just blows up in the flames. So now John talks about she talks to Nancy about Melanie's death, and then Nancy keeps bringing on like, do you think it's strange that, these two people have died already since you've been moving into this house? All right. And she forces him, saying, I don't want my daughter in that house at all. All right. Or else I'm going to go to my lawyer about it.
Yeah, so maybe this is something I missed in the movie, but you haven't talked about it either, so I was going to ask you. So, are they getting a divorce?
Yes, I believe so. Because remember when
they don't say that, but it kind of implies that he's moving out of the house without her.
They don't outright say, "Oh, we're going to get a divorce." But when John bought the house, he did say like, I don't want this life anymore. I want a whole new life and everything. And him and his wife, you could tell that they're arguing. So I think they're like in the middle of getting like a divorce. But they still want to keep, the daughter happy and everything.
Right.
So basically the mom was basically saying, if Susie goes back to the house and stuff and you keep letting her, I'm going to go to my lawyer about it and stop her from going to the house. But guess what? Susie and Lisa are at a restaurant talking with some boys about Susie's haunted house, and Lisa wants to go over there and do a seance, and guess what? Of
course.
They get right into the house, no problem.
Yes.
Nancy has failed again.
Yes.
So they go to the house, and they bring out a Ouija board.
Yes.
Well, kind of. Like, it's kind of like just a glass with a bunch of paper.
They kind of make one. Yeah, they kind of make a Ouija board. Yeah.
And Lisa asks, is there any supernatural presence in this room? And I believe we went to yes, but they all asked like, oh, you've been touching it. You've been touching it. All right. And then, of course, Jeff, he was doing the 18 to 34 male question of the evening. Jeff wants to know what color panties Lisa is wearing. If I was a guess, I would go with maroon.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess.
But I think one of them said, like, well, that's a stupid question. Everybody knows that. Okay. And then they ask, is anyone in this room going to be dead next year? Everybody's like, oh, that's a stupid question. Why would you ask that? They get all offended by it. And then Lisa's like, okay, we won't ask that. And then Lisa asks, is there anybody in this room who is in fear of getting, in danger? And of course, the glass goes to yes. There's a fly that comes in, and then eventually the glass flies off, and they all think that Susan is the one that pushed it. But they all keep arguing about if somebody pushed it or not. So now Nancy, she's calling around trying to find Susie because, she's not doing pretty good at her one job she had throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I know where she is now. So Nancy goes off to the house. And then we get some cinema genius over here. We get a Frisbee in 3D.
That's fantastic.
I mean, come on. My ticket has already been paid for that one scene.
I know.
And
everything else is just icing on the cake.
All right, Alison, I want to ask you a question.
Yep.
So we're teenagers now, okay? We got some hotties with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we already went to a house and did some seance stuff. All right? We're playing our 1983 Frisbees.
Yep.
It looks a little windy out there, a little cold. What should we do next? Oh, let's just get on a boat.
Yeah, why not?
Let's go boating.
Let's go boating.
All right, so they all go onto the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy shows up. She's looking through all the house and stuff. She reads John's book notes. Wonder what his book is like.
Book notes.
I mean, if he's like Mr. Non-Supernatural and he wants to read a novel, like what's a novel going to be about? A business guy?
I mean, I have a feeling it's just like I'm guessing that he wanted to get away from, like he talked about how he wanted to get away from exposing, all these frauds. And so he just wants to write a novel and,
about what?
Like I don't know, like some kind of fiction novel. I'm guessing.
He seemed like a boring guy, so I don't know if I would watch reading his books. Anyway, now she hears a noise and it's Susan. She shows up all wet. She's like smiles at her and she goes upstairs. So then John arrives back to the house. He sees people by the boat. All right, Susan goes upstairs, ignoring the mom. And then Susie goes into her room and locks the door, ignoring her mom some more. And now John goes up to where the boat is because he sees like a whole commotion going over there, and somebody has drowned, and apparently it's Susie. She is the one who drowned from the boating. And none of them, they're all like kind of freaking out. She's like, well, he's like, what happened? He's like, well, she just kind of just fell over. Like, okay, just fell over? Yes, that's the explanation. So now Nancy comes downstairs and she sees that an ambulance has arrived. She comes out there and then she sees that Susie's there. And she's like, no, Susie wasn't there. She's in the house. So she freaks out about Susie being in the house the whole time. And she takes John all the way upstairs. And she doesn't know why Susie is hiding from her because she saw her in the house. Nancy goes to the room and no one's there. John says she's not here. And then now we're at the house at nighttime. So basically, Susie saw Nancy saw the Susie ghost, apparently.
Yeah, right.
From the house. So John is awake and he hears a bunch of noises. Okay? He goes to the basement, and the basement hole is filled with water now. And he sees Nancy by the hole, and they look at the water together, and they see that there's something in the water. And apparently, what's in the water is a demon Susie, and it attacks them in 3D. Alison, have you ever gone down to the basement, gone into the watering hole, and been attacked by a Susie demon, water demon 3D?
That's never happened to me, but I bet it does happen a lot, though.
Well, I think you're taking the wrong drugs then.
Most likely.
So now he just wakes up freaked out. All right. John does. And then he goes to the room and he sees Nancy. And he asks her, like, what happened? I was like, what was... was it a dream or did it happen? I have no idea. She says Susie wants us to know that she's here. And then she starts talking about Susie's clothes and everything because she's like, really grieving mom right now. John says that she is fantasizing. She knows what she, and then she's like the Nancy's like, I know what I saw. I saw her here. All right, and then Nancy goes on saying, "Who is to say what I believe? You? Are you the one who determines what I see and I don't see?" All right, so now John is telling people like that Nancy refused to go to the funeral, and he's telling the doctor like she won't leave the house. And doctor says like, well, what if she did see something? Like basically the Elliot doctor, he's telling John that he has an idea. Why doesn't he bring his gear? All right, so he can investigate the house. And the point is, if it works, they can ease Nancy. All right, and if she's right, it might save her sanity. Okay, so the Elliot wants to do is an experiment, but he's also saying like, well, maybe we can rule out a couple things. If the house is showing ghosts or not, if Susie's ghost is walking the house or not, we can rule out a couple things to ease Nancy's mind. All right.
Yeah.
So now, now we're back in the house, and the Elliot he's showing John all his equipment, and of course we get all the 1983 investigated equipment in 3D. Wow.
I know. It's like, awesome.
I mean, come on, man.
I love the part. I can't remember if it's right here, but there's a part where he says, put it on the big monitor, and it's like a 19-inch, a little 19-inch screen. I'm like, that's a big monitor.
That's a big one, brother.
Yeah. That's a big monitor in 1983.
Yeah, so basically Nancy is waiting in Susie's room because she's all fucked up right now. And they have the big monitor hooked up to that room, so that's where they're staring at.
Right.
So they're all so basically John visits Nancy for a second, and Nancy says, "You never believed in this house, John." And then he just leaves, and then no shit, we get about 5 minutes of them all just waiting around.
Yep.
All right. So the doctor is watching Nancy's room. All right, and they hear something. And then they hear shots. It sounds like shots, but I'm not sure what it was. And then the doctor was like, no, don't go in there. Let it happen. Let it all play out.
Let it all play out.
And then we hear this noise. Please, mother, I need you. And then this this random purple light shows up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what kind of remind me of? Like, when you're playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night and you could turn into that mist? Kind of remind me of that. I don't know why.
Kind of, yeah.
But it's basically like this purple mist light. All right, and then Nancy is going towards the light. And then, of course, the whole film crew is filming them. Like Nancy walking of her following this purple light. Pretty hokey, I'm not going to lie. The basement, once they get down to the basement starts acting up. All right? And they're saying the force in the well killed Susie and is forcing Nancy down there. So Elliot has a plan to save Nancy, and it tells John, hey, follow her, but don't touch her and don't stop her. Just follow her. So we find out that apparently the well from the house is the one who killed Nancy. The spiritual Indian spiritual ground well is the full force of this house.
Yes.
So now John follows her. John holds her, and Eli tries to force the water demon out of the water. Okay? And apparently what happens is there's like this water alien demon burns his face and grabs Elliot and kills him. All right? So there was an alien water creature in there the whole time. I wonder if
so.
I was thinking I know these movies are not connected, but we did see that the priest from the second movie did turn into the demon.
Oh, good point. So wonder if this is it's him. He went into the well in the basement.
And because remember, if you remember that the kid, when he turned into his final form, it kind of looked like a little demon alien, and that's what it kind of looked like on here too. So maybe. So
they're more connected than we think.
Yes. So John holds her, and then Eli forces out the water demon. His face gets all burnt up, and then he falls in the hole, and the hole blows up. All right, like it kind of fire, like it blows up with fire in it in the hole. Then the house starts blowing up a little bit, and now we have them trying to escape. They all try to get out. All right, and then while they're trying to escape, Nancy and John, all like the camera crew just keeps getting like blown away. And I thought the funniest one was when the door, it caught like the camera girl. Like the door like smacked right into the camera girl and she went flying. I thought that part was pretty funny. So the house won't then, I like my notes here. The house won't let them leave in 3D. You know?
Yeah. The house will not let them leave in 3D.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, right. And this is the only part that really lost me. I like the movie up until the very end. I feel like the ending was really rushed. And like, because you have all this stuff happening, and then all of a sudden there's like 15 minutes left of the movie, and we're doing an investigation.
Yeah.
But but there's like wind that you can see.
Yeah.
It's really hard to describe. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. Like when it's like like going into Melanie's face or whatever, or not Melanie.
Nancy.
Maybe it is Melanie.
Nancy. Melanie's dead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's when it's going into Nancy's face. Like I can't figure out what that's supposed to be.
I think it was glass.
But you can see it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's wind you can see, and it's in 3D.
Yeah.
Which sure, why not?
And then it's cold in the house.
Of course, because remember, it's the demon makes it cold. And then they're trying to get out, and when he's pushing against the door, it's like the lightest pushes against the door I've ever seen.
Well, John, he's not known for his strength.
I guess not, but that's the most theater thing I've ever seen. It's like, don't push too hard on the door because we don't want to damage it or it'll smash open. So just barely push into it, and then the swordfish flies towards him to impale him, but of course misses and goes into 3D in the camera. Yeah.
It's only there for the effect, man. All right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they eventually get the windows smashed open. After the house is freezing, they're all freezing up. And they get out of the house, and then I wrote in my notes, the house blows up again. All the way this time.
Yes.
And then John and Nancy leave. We have the water pit on fire. And then we have a purple small 3D fly. Gets away.
Oh.
And that ends.
Yeah, because it's kind of cool. Like, it's like a little animated purple fly.
Yeah.
It just flies away because I guess the demon escaped for the sequel for number 4.
Well, was that supposed to be Susie? Is she the demon now?
I don't think so. I think it's just the concept of the demon, of the ghost or whatever it is.
So the demon is a purple fly.
Well, no, that just represents it.
Okay.
That's its avatar.
Gotcha. Okay. So the house is a demon.
Well, no, I think the demon inhabits the house or the land that the house is on.
The Indian spiritual demon?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess. In this movie, yes, it's an Indian spiritual demon. Yes.
There you go, brother. So there you go. Amityville 3D. Parts of it was okay, but I was I was a little bored by this movie. It wasn't my cup of tea.
I don't know. I thought it was better than 2. It's not as good as the first one, but it's better than 2, I thought. Or I just enjoyed it better. But it also could have been that everything's relative, right? So expectation is a lot of things, and I expected absolutely nothing out of this. And it was better than I thought it was going to be. So maybe that's why I say I liked it when maybe I didn't really like it. It's just better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it wasn't the most horrible movie I've ever seen. I just thought some of the stuff was a little bit dull for me. But, still had some okay stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Some of it's like really, really dull, but it is what it is. I mean, it was. I watched it and I got through it, and it wasn't 2 hours long. So that's an improvement on the first two movies to me. Well, the second movie at least. First movie's pretty good.
But I say, everybody, join us here next week as we finish off our Halloween October 2024 series review of the Amityville Horror in the 1980s with Amityville 4: The Evil Escapes. Have you ever seen this before, Alison?
No, I've never seen this. I've never seen any of these movies except the first one. So the evil escapes. Did the evil not escape in this movie when the purple fly flew away?
So I'm gonna read you this, and I can't wait because it sounds fucking ridiculous. Here's like the description. You know what I mean? Of the film. The demonic forces in the demonic. Mm-hmm. My bad. Mm-hmm. The demonic forces in the Amityville house transferred to an ancient lamp.
Oh my God! I can't wait. I cannot wait for this.
All right,
ancient lamp,
which finds its way to a remote California mansion where the evil manipulates a little girl by manifesting itself in the form of her dead father. So that's like the description of the film. So yeah, should be interesting. Everybody, Amityville 4. Was it the evil something? Yes, the evil escapes. So join us here as we finish it up, and of course, on that episode next week, we had to change the schedule around, because of the hurricane and everything. Yeah. So basically, we're going to release Amityville 4 on the Sunday of the 27th, and then on Halloween, October 31st, we're going to do a very special Retro Blood. We're going to be doing the Retro Blood. And I'll just tell everybody here right now so you can get some time to prepare and find it, because me and Alison got to do that too. Me and Alison are going to do, hopefully live, well, not live, but like a video of it. We'll see if we can do that or not from all the recent stuff that's happened. But we are definitely going to do the Retro Blood Halloween episode where I usually get pretty drunk. We're going to do the rock and roll film Trick or Treat.
Yeah, this is a good one. You've never seen this movie, right?
No, I haven't. But I've been waiting to do it for a while.
I have a lot to say about it. Yeah, I know. I love this movie, and I have a lot to say about it. So that's gonna be a good episode.
Yeah, so join us there for that one. That one's gonna drop on Halloween, which is a Thursday this year, October 31st. And of course, next Sunday you can hear the Amityville 4, and sometime during the week, probably before October happens, me and Alison are going to do our second Lights Out, doing the Battle of the Halloween Havocs Part 3.
Yeah.
Which he has chosen WCW Halloween Havoc 2000.
Yes.
And I did NXT Halloween Havoc special TV episode. I believe it was the second one that they did.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. I think mine... You've won. We drew the first year, so we tied. The second year, I won. So this year, I'm going out on a limb, and I'm picking a show that's traditionally not thought to be good. It's not a good era of WCW, but I really feel like this show is better than you think.
Yeah, and the NXT one I picked, it's actually during the 2.1 era or something like that. The multicolored era.
Yes.
When they kind of got rid of all the black and gold and they're bringing in a bunch of new cast in there. Mm-hmm. But the reason I picked this show is because I really want Alison to watch the whole storyline angle with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams going into Dexter Loomis's house.
Yeah, the horror house or whatever. Yeah.
So, but it does have some pretty good matches on there. So we will see what has more entertaining matches: WCW 2000 or NXT when there's like the developmental brand of the WWE. So it'll be very interesting. So
we'll see.
But we'll see, everybody. But, Alison, what song from Ozzy should we play, everybody, while we get the hell out of here?
Man, let's just go with the standard